When I first moved into my dream lake house, I expected peace, the kind of peace you only find when the water's calm, and the pine trees stand tall like guardians around your home. But just days after settling in, that dream turned into a nightmare. The HOA stormed in, clipboard-wielding Karen at the front, demanding that I turn over the lake because it belonged to the community. What? They didn't know. I had legal control over the very docks they used for their boats, and when they tried to bully me, I made sure they regretted it. The cabin was everything I had ever wanted, tucked deep into the woods, perched perfectly on the edge of a clear, glistening lake. After years of city noise and HOA-run neighborhoods, I thought I had finally escaped into solitude. I bought the property outright, complete with deeded access to not just the cabin, but the lake itself and all attached docks. The first morning I woke there, coffee steaming in my hand as the mist rolled over the water. I felt like I was finally free, but freedom rarely lasts long when HOAs are involved. By day 3, I noticed a white SUV crawling up my gravel drive. Out spilled a group of sharply dressed HOA board members, led by the queen bee herself, Karen. Blonde hair, expensive suit, fake smile stretched tight. She didn't even introduce herself before saying, "You can't just take our lake." Behind her, two men nodded like parrots, clutching clipboards stuffed with papers they clearly thought would intimidate me. Their demands were outrageous. I needed to register my cabin, pay dues for lake maintenance, and, worst of all, relinquish all dock rights so the HOA could continue renting them out for profit. It was laughable. They assumed I was just another naive homeowner who didn't understand property law, but I had spent years researching before making this purchase. I knew exactly what I owned and what they didn't. Karen's tone shifted when I told her no. Her fake smile disappeared, replaced by a venomous glare. She waved her clipboard like a sword, insisting that the HOA controlled everything in the neighborhood, including the lake. But here was the truth. The HOA didn't own the lake. The cabin had been part of an old family estate that predated their little suburban expansion. The deed included exclusive rights to the water and all docks built upon it. They could posture all they wanted, but legally, I held all the cards. That didn't stop them from trying. The first week, they bombarded me with letters, fines for unapproved watercraft violations for unregistered structures, even threats of lawsuits if I didn't sign over access. Each notice was more ridiculous than the last. I ignored them. Then came the escalation. HOA members would stand at the edge of my property, shouting about community rules. They tried chaining off the path to the docks, pretending it belonged to them. At night, I caught them snooping around the waterline, snapping photos like private detectives. Karen, of course, was the loudest. She stormed onto my porch one morning, demanding I hand over the dock keys immediately, or face serious legal consequences. Her arrogance was staggering. What she didn't realize was that I had already spoken with county officials. The HOA had been renting out boat slips illegally for years, lining their pockets with money that should never have been theirs. Every lease they wrote, every payment they collected, was unlawful. And now, they were on my property. I decided to set a trap. The next weekend, I invited a group of friends to the cabin. We launched kayaks, fished, and enjoyed the lake. Predictably, Karen showed up with her little entourage. Furious that we were breaking HOA rules, she shouted in front of everyone, threatening to tow boats and revoke access. That was when I pulled out a folder. Inside, the deed, legal documents, and a written statement from the county confirming that I alone owned the lake and docks. The look on her face when I read it aloud was priceless. Shock, rage, and denial all twisted together. But this wasn't over. She wasn't going to let her power slip without a fight. 2 days later, I heard engines rumbling by the water. Karen and her board had hired contractors to put up HOA property signs along the docks, hammering them into the wood. They were staking their claim, even in the face of evidence. That was their mistake. I walked down to the shoreline with my phone recording. Calmly, I told the contractors they were trespassing and instructed them to leave. Karen, red-faced and shrieking, told them to keep working, that she authorized it. The contractors hesitated. But before Karen could bark another order, two county sheriff vehicles rolled up. I had called them earlier, filing a trespassing report. When the deputies stepped out, Karen puffed up with arrogance. "Thank goodness you're here," she said. "This man is illegally taking our lake." The deputies didn't even respond to her. They walked over to me, asked for the documents, and I handed them the deed and county letter. After reviewing the papers, one deputy turned to Karen and said flatly, "Ma'am, you are trespassing. If you don't leave now, you'll be charged." The color drained from her face. She tried arguing, waving her clipboard like it was law. But the deputies weren't buying it. The contractors packed up immediately, not wanting any part of the drama. Karen screamed that this wasn't over, but for the first time, she wasn't in control. She was humiliated in front of her board, her workers, and half the neighborhood who had gathered to watch. After that day, the HOA's grip on the neighborhood unraveled quickly. With the sheriff's warning on record, Karen and her board backed off from my property. But their problems were only beginning. I filed a formal complaint with the county, providing evidence of their illegal dock rentals. An investigation launched, exposing years of fraudulent practices. The HOA had to refund thousands of dollars to residents who had been duped into paying for dock access. Karen herself was fined heavily and removed from her position as HOA president. The neighborhood changed almost overnight. Residents who had lived under her rule of fear and fines began approaching me, thanking me for standing up to her. Some even admitted they thought the HOA owned the lake too. Karen had lied to everyone for years. Now, the lake is quiet again. The docks are mine, and instead of HOA board members loitering by the water, kids play there freely, neighbors fish without harassment, and boats come and go without anyone demanding dues. As for Karen, she avoids me at all costs. Every time I see her speeding away in her SUV, I can't help but smile. Because in the end, she stormed into my life thinking she could control me. But the truth was simple. The lake, and the power that came with it, had always been mine, and she never saw it coming.